Hello and welcome to today's video. We are going for the mid-year book freakout tag. So I have the questions written down. I did try to sort of come up with my answers before filming because I felt like doing it on the spot would be chaos. However, there are a lot of these which I struggle to answer because I feel like I don't necessarily pay like full attention to making notes as I go along with my reading. So unless I am physically annotating a book, I tend to sit there and be like, I really enjoyed that book, but I don't know what it was about. I can't tell you what it was about because I don't remember. However, we're going to try our hardest on this one. There are going to be quite a lot of Kindle Unlimited books because this year I feel like I really went like full in on making the most of my Kindle, and yeah, there's a lot. So let's just get into it. I have got a nice cold drink because in the UK it's very, very hot. It's not even 10 o'clock yet and it is so warm. I'm not built for it, so I've got lemonade with an ice cube which has already melted, just to give you an idea. And yeah, so unfortunately I might make an iced coffee later. Might do. Okay, so the first one is, how is your reading going so far? So I don't really track my pages and I don't really do much else other than putting the actual book on Storygraph or Goodreads. So I'm actually on 52 books at the moment, but I am midway through one and about 3/4 of the way through another one. So I think by July we might be on 54, but either way I think 52 is a really good solid number because you double it, you get 104. However, I have definitely concentrated more this year on quality and just enjoying the reads. So it's been more of a case of I haven't rushed through books. A lot of the time I haven't got more than one book going. Normally I would be like, I need to consume all the books right away. And a lot of overhyped books, I've been trying to do this for the last couple of years where I've just read what I wanted to read and it's really worked out well for me. I've had great reading years. I've had great time reading and I haven't had a book slump, so to speak, for a while, although there was one that was close to creating one, but we'll talk about that after. So the second question is the best book you've read so far, and I would have to go with Heads Will Roll by Josh Winning. This is a camp slasher and it is extremely gory, so maybe not so much for the faint-hearted. However, I just feel like this had everything in it that I wanted. I love that with Josh Winning's books we always have some sort of 80s, 90s vibes going on and it's very nostalgic. It's very much a case of you feel like you've been taken back to that time and you're actually living in that time rather than just reading and being like, oh yeah, I remember that. It's like, oh no, I'm living it again. So in this one we follow Willow, who has decided that she needs to get away. She needs to go completely off the grid and has gone to visit a camp where everybody else has had the same idea. Their phones are taken off them. Everything is an electronic break. So obviously no phones. That does not make for a good time when it comes to the actual fact that they can't get in touch with anyone. And genuinely, I feel like giving any more away would probably give the story away. All I will say is that I really like how we go through the book and we end up getting different stories. So we've got a story for each camper, and you slowly begin to learn why they felt like they needed time away from technology and electronics. And they're not joking when they say electronics. There is a point right at the beginning where there's an iPod found, and the woman who runs the camp goes completely crazy about the fact that there is an iPod. So they're not joking when they mention no technology at all. But this is an absolute 5 stars for me. I just enjoyed the vibes of it all. It was perfect, everything I wanted, and I couldn't have asked for better. My next one is your favourite sequel that you've read this year. I don't think I've read a lot of sequels. I don't do very well with continuing series. However, I did read The Coven and The Cursed at the beginning of this year, and I feel like because that sort of, I know I've been reading the Elsie Silver books, but I feel like although they are sequels, like I feel like you almost start afresh every time. I don't necessarily count that as a sequel. I sort of, it's a series, it's an interlocked series, an interconnected series as I like to call it. However, The Cursed literally follows like straight on from The Coven. This is one of those ones where I know I read it and I know I thoroughly enjoyed it and my heart was in my mouth the entire way through. Can I tell you what it's about? No. But I feel like the fact that this was a direct, like literally you pick up where we left off, and the more that came out about this situation, the more exciting it got and the more invested I became in the characters. And then what we get left on is just, excuse me, when is the next book out? And I'm hoping it's going to be a definite date, but I have seen that it's October this year, so I'm really, really hoping. I completely flew through both of these books. They are just so quick to read. They are really fast paced, really easy to just go straight through with. I don't know what it is about them. It was just like I couldn't get enough, and I just wanted to keep going. I think I read The Coven in under 2 days, and The Curse was probably just a little bit more because there was a bit more to go with it. There was a bit more to go into with it. So yeah, I definitely think this was the first book that I've read for a while involving witches and demons and things like that, which thoroughly caught my attention and kept me wanting to go on. The next one is a new release you haven't read yet, but you want to. And I have to be 100% honest with you. I know people are probably going to go a bit crazy about this, but I still haven't read Onyx Storm. I think, once again, the the hype sort of made me not want to pick it up yet. I genuinely was so excited to the point where I reread Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, and I had Onyx Storm, and I had Onyx Storm pre-ordered. It came. I was like, okay, once I finish this book, we're gonna go to this. And it just never happened, because there were so many people posting about stuff on TikTok and Instagram, and I was just like, I'm gonna wait a bit. So yeah, I still haven't read Onyx Storm. I do intend to get to it, but I definitely think that the hype around it as soon as it came out sort of put me a bit like on a back burner for me. So the next question is your most anticipated release for the second half of this year, which I have to say I'm going in a bit blind on this one, but I am really looking forward to the release of Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. Now, I know that this is already out in some countries, especially the US, but it actually doesn't come out until the 3rd of July in the UK, so I'm classing that as my anticipated release for the second half. So like I said, I'm going in quite blind on this one. I don't really know a lot about it. I think it's a fantasy, but I have really enjoyed Devney Perry's writing overall for her small town romances, her cowboy romances, and it has just been an amazing sort of journey to go on with Devney Perry. And I am interested to see whether the writing style is the same or at least similar, and I would like to continue to read more of Devney Perry, because what I have read so far has been completely mind-blowing for me. So the next one is worst book read so far, and that can go to none other than Credence by Penelope Douglas. I don't know what else to say about this book, because I feel like I have already ranted so much about it that, yeah, no, that's a lie. I can go again. So why I don't get it. I don't get it, especially seeing as she may not be like fully related to her uncle and her cousins, but there is the thing of her one cousin, well, whatever you want to call him, calls her cuz whilst things are going on. There's this whole thing of like, I don't get it. And even if she's not blood related to them and never grew up around them, there are several things that just gave me the ick, and that was the fact that I'm just going to call them uncle and cousins, but her uncle and her cousins knew that she was sleeping with the others, and nobody said anything about anything. And then at one point, both of the cousins are sleeping with her and they're just trying not to make eye contact, and I'm like, this is really awkward. I think the only reason I did continue to read it was because I just couldn't believe that so many people had said how amazing this book is. And I was reading this book and I just didn't get it. So we're now going to move on to the biggest disappointment so far. I feel like maybe I was a bit more disappointed in myself because I bought the series And if you have been watching this channel, you'll probably guess where I'm going with this. But I bought the series because I was like, yes, I'm going to love this so much. This is going to be great. Consider Me by Becca Mack. I bought the entire series. Not sure if I'm going to actually continue it. However, I think that this was slow. A lot of the characters, in fact all of the characters, seemed a lot younger than they were meant to be, and that didn't go well for me. I really struggled reading about these young adults who are supposed to be, you know, 24, 25, some of them even 29, 30. I really struggled because in my head all I could get was like 16, 17-year-olds. It is written like they are really young. So in my head, when it came to the spicy scenes, I was like, no, you shouldn't be doing that. No. Also, I realise that some of you love Carter Beckett. However, he was the bane of my existence during this book, because if Carter Beckett was not completely acting like a penis, he was talking about his penis and how big it is, and it just got to the point where it was just sort of like, okay, Becca, we know that you want Carter Beckett to have a huge penis, and yeah, it was just really bad. So the next one is the biggest surprise so far. I hadn't really had to think about this one for too long. So my biggest surprise of this year was the Skyridge Hotshots. Now I know that's not just one book, it is a trilogy. So I want to just say the series in general, because I genuinely believe that you should just, I just feel like everyone should read the Skyridge Hotshots trilogy. Not only is it really interesting when it comes to wildfire fighting, I had no idea, and I know this probably sounds a bit naive from my side. I had no idea the wildfires were actually contained and dealt with by wildfire fighters. I genuinely thought that it was a case of all firefighters would just go to said wildfire and deal with it. So I thought it was just a general thing, but learning that there are actually people who are trained, and obviously now it makes sense in my head, but at the time I just found it fascinating. And what I really like about it is that throughout each of the books you get a glimpse of what actually goes into what they do. So it can be in the form of you're there while they're planning on how they're going to stop this particular fire from spreading, or planning ahead for a possible drought and then working out how they are going to strategically burn certain parts of a forest or a field so that if there is a fire, it will not spread further. It's also really nice to see the other side of that as well, and see how the family deal with it, with their partners, their sons, just in general, how their family deal with the chance that they could go out and not come back. And unfortunately, as we go through the trilogy, that does actually happen, and we see the aftermath of that. There is just so many emotions, so many good things about it, that I could literally just have an entire video talking about the Sky Ridge Hot Shots. I never thought that I would find this like subgenre of romance even the slightest bit interesting. So the first book is written by Sloane St. James. Second book is written by Paisley Hope, and the third one is written by Danielle Baker. And I really like the fact that you've got 3 different writers. However, some people might be a little bit dubious about that. I was, because I thought maybe they would write differently and things just wouldn't flow. However, it really, really does flow. I would love more Sky Ridge Hot Shots. So, new favourite author, I want to say Elsie Silver, purely because I am just eating up her books at the moment. However, I feel like that started at the end of last year, possibly. But I don't know. That one's a really difficult one to go for, because I tend to be like, okay, well, this person writes this type of genre really well. This person writes this genre really well. So I think it's quite difficult to just go for that one. I don't have a particular favourite author. I just have favourites. A book that made you cry. So Psychotic Obsession by Leigh Rivers is one of these books where, again, I had actually seen some people reading the trilogy, which is set after Psychotic Obsessions. And although a lot of people said you don't need to read Psychotic Obsessions, I wanted to anyway, just to, on the off chance that I would continue, I wanted to make sure that I had got all the like background information that I wanted. So I started with that one, and I found this to be quite a difficult read. It's a lot to do with mental health and quite severe dip in mental health. When the character admits that they can't stop thinking these things, they can't stop hearing these things, and he's crying, and it's heartbreaking. And I really, really cried. The next one is a book that made you happy, and I have to say it is Elsie Silver, Powerless. I know that so many people have read the Chestnut Spring series and they've said the Eaton brothers, amazing, Sierra Silver, beautiful. However, so far for me, Jasper Gervais is everything. I really like A Friends to Lovers, and this was just perfect. It's that whole thing of they don't want to ruin anything with the possibility of going further, but they know that they're not just friends. And it's the constant, I'm here for you either way. I will always look after you, whether we are together, whether we're friends. That's never going to change. And I loved it so much. There's a lot of tabs on that one, but they are so funny together. and Jasper is described as what is in my head is just like perfect. This book, chef's kiss. I was sat in bed giggling, squealing. I would probably have kicked my legs about in the air like a little girl. It was just so good and so sweet and cute, and I was just smirking like the Cheshire Cat. I could not stop. My cheeks hurt so much from either smiling at something that was said or giggling because they are so funny together. And I just, it was brilliant. I loved it. So I genuinely think that this is a book that made me happy, and like ridiculously happy. I think I would say so far in the Chestnut Springs series at least, this one is my favourite, although I have got the final one to read first. Then I can decide. Okay, so then the most beautiful book you have bought this year so far. I wanted to go based off original covers for this one. I didn't want to do special editions or anything like that, so I just wanted to go based off original covers. And what clung to me the most was The Silence Factory by Bridget Collins. Now, I haven't actually read this one yet, but as soon as I saw the cover, I just knew that this was going to be it. Like, it's just stunning. And it's not even just the cover. It is... the end pages are beautiful. Under the Dust Jacket is gorgeous. I think that when it comes to original covers, they did this really, really well. So the actual book itself, I don't know how well you can see that, but it's almost like a tapestry that's been torn across. But the entire thing is like tapestry material. And the same on the back, it's almost printed like a tapestry. And I really, really like that. I think it was so well thought out. Like, it could have just been left on the face and everything else be normal, but they have gone into so much detail with it that you can even see some of the tapestry marks like on the flower. And yeah, I just think it is stunning. Like I said, again, with the end pages, it is also the same on the back, and I just think it's gorgeous. I don't know what it is. Now, end of year goals. I'm not really sure I want to set any goals other than to just continue reading what I would like at my own pace and enjoying what I am picking up. I have done really well with not really worrying too much about, oh, maybe I need to read this because I'm putting too much of this genre on my page. I just am going with what I'm enjoying at the time, and I would like to make sure that that continues. I would also like to keep doing that in hopes that anybody that comes across my channel, anybody that comes across my pages on social media, will also look to making sure that they are enjoying what they read, rather than constantly feeling the need to read what is hyped up on Instagram or on TikTok. You know, whilst that can be a really great way to find new books, I think the lesser heard of books are also definitely worth giving a shot, because you just might find something that you really, really enjoy. But other than that, I don't think I want to set any more goals. I'm not necessarily great with goals when it comes to my reading, because I'm just like, I'll do what I want. But I feel like that should be how it is. I feel like you should just enjoy it. It's not a hobby if you don't enjoy it. It's not a hobby if you're stressed about it, if you're constantly thinking, I need to do this, I need to do that. So that is definitely a big one for me. But that is the end of the mid-year freakout tag. I think that I have answered all the questions that I could apply to my reading, and I have had quite a bit of fun doing this because it actually made me think a bit more about what I've read so far. But I'm really happy. A lot of the stuff, apart from you, this is no, but everything else I've been super happy with. So that is the end of today's video. If you have stuck around, then thank you, and I would love it if you could give me any recommendations for any book that surprised you, that you think other people would read and be surprised by. I'd really love to see. And of course, if you do end up doing any of this, then don't forget to tag me so I can have a look at your best books of the year, your worst books of the year so far. It would be great. So don't forget to leave a like and subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one.